What person got a teen pregnancy that really surprised you? My sister Naomi got pregnant at 16, and nobody in our family believed her. Not because she was lying, but because our parents had spent her entire pregnancy insisting she was just gaining weight from stress eating. They refused to take her to a doctor even when her stomach swelled so large she couldn't fit into any of her clothes. They told relatives she was going through a difficult phase and needed privacy. And when she finally went into labor on a spring afternoon while our parents were at work, I was the only person there to help her. I was 14 at the time, completely unprepared for what happened that day. Naomi had been complaining about back pain all morning, lying on the couch with her hand pressed against her enormous belly. Our parents had left hours earlier for their jobs and wouldn't be home until after 6. Around noon, Naomi's face went white and she doubled over, clutching her stomach and making sounds I'd never heard before. Deep groans that came from somewhere primal and terrifying. I asked if she was okay, and she just shook her head, tears streaming down her face, telling me something was wrong and she needed help right now. I grabbed my phone to call our parents, but Naomi stopped me. She said they wouldn't believe her, that they'd just yell at her for being dramatic like they always did. She was right. Our parents had spent months denying reality, treating Naomi's obvious pregnancy like it was some kind of elaborate attention-seeking scheme. No matter how much evidence accumulated, they simply refused to acknowledge what was happening. When Naomi's water broke, soaking through her sweatpants and onto the couch cushions, I understood this was really happening and I had no idea what to do. I'd seen births on television shows, but that didn't prepare me for the reality of my teenage sister screaming in pain, begging me to help her get to the bathroom because she felt like she needed to push. I helped her walk the 15 feet to the bathroom, supporting her weight as she waddled with her legs spread wide, fluid dripping down her thighs with every step. She collapsed onto the bathroom floor, unable to make it to the toilet, and that's where she stayed for the next 2 hours. I called 911 3 times during those 2 hours. The first time, I explained my sister was in labor and needed an ambulance immediately. The dispatcher asked routine questions about her age, her due date, how far apart the contractions were. When I said she was 16 and hadn't seen a doctor at all during the pregnancy, the dispatcher's tone changed. She asked why Naomi hadn't received prenatal care, and I didn't know how to explain that our parents had pretended none of this was happening. The dispatcher said an ambulance was on the way, but they were dealing with a major accident on the highway, and it might take 30 minutes or more. 30 minutes turned into an hour, then longer. I called back twice to ask where they were and got transferred between different people who all asked the same questions again. Meanwhile, Naomi was screaming so loud I was sure the neighbors would hear, but nobody came to check on us. She kept saying she couldn't do this, that something was wrong, that the baby was coming and she didn't know how to stop it. I knelt beside her on the bathroom floor, holding her hand while she squeezed hard enough to leave bruises, watching her face turn red and blotchy from pushing. The baby came fast once Naomi started pushing properly. One minute she was screaming that she couldn't do it, and the next minute there was a head crowning between her legs, dark hair matted and slick. I watched in frozen horror as my sister pushed again, and the entire baby slid out onto the bathroom floor in a rush of blood and fluid. The baby didn't cry immediately. It just lay there between Naomi's legs, skin grayish blue and covered in white vernix, completely silent and still. I thought it was dead. Then the baby gasped and let out a weak cry that grew stronger with each breath. I grabbed towels from the cabinet and wrapped the baby up, not knowing what else to do. The umbilical cord was still attached, pulsing and thick, connecting my sister to this tiny screaming creature she'd just pushed out of her body. Naomi was crying and asking if the baby was okay, if it was alive, and I told her yes while staring at the impossibly small person in my arms. The baby had my sister's nose and my mother's chin. A girl, I realized, when I adjusted the towel around her body. The ambulance finally arrived 20 minutes after the baby was born. The paramedics came rushing in with bags of equipment, looking startled when they saw the baby already delivered and cleaned up. They examined the baby under bright lights, checking her airways and listening to her heart, pronouncing her healthy despite the circumstances. They loaded Naomi onto a stretcher and took her to the hospital with the baby wrapped in heated blankets. I rode in the ambulance with them, watching paramedics take my sister's vitals and ask questions about her medical history that neither of us could answer. At the hospital, nurses swarmed around Naomi and the baby, wheeling them into different rooms while someone handed me paperwork to fill out. I didn't know basic information like Naomi's blood type or whether she was allergic to medications. I couldn't answer questions about prenatal vitamins or ultrasounds or anything else that normal pregnancies involved. I called my parents from the hospital waiting room. My mother answered on the third ring, sounding annoyed that I was bothering her at work. I said Naomi had given birth and they needed to come to the hospital right away. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, but that's when things took a turn I never expected. Full story is linked below or on my channel.